In this video, I'm going to show you my simplified way of planting the garden. If you haven't already, I do have a simplified seed starting guide. Where we are here in Zone 7, it's still plenty of time to plan your garden, plenty of time to start seeds, and there's no hurry whatsoever. It's the dead of winter. We have had several snowstorms, ice storms, and I am just so ready for spring. Something about winter makes spring that much sweeter. I've been doing this method probably for the last 8 years now. This is one thing that I like to show people in an intensive, like if I work with them, you know, planting their garden, maybe they already have a garden. And it's also going to help you kind of train into thinking about crop rotation and companion planting. Those two things alone used to scare me to death because I felt like it was this sub-knowledge that was unattainable and so much to memorize, but it's really not. And I have several hacks that I want to share with you. So let's go check on the high tunnel and I'll show you how it's doing this early February. And I'll also show you the plant starts that I've started that desperately need to be potted up soon. And yeah, we'll just get into it. So down here, we have the starts that we started back in January. We have rhubarb, wild strawberry, some shallots, and then some celery. And I rotate these, and I also have this little grow light here. I'll be sure to link it, and I just turn it on and off. And there's the bird. So yeah, this is how it's looking. Not a fancy setup, definitely not everything that's to come, but it works. One of the pine trees fell into the garden and it completely missed all of the little fiberglass supports for the row cover, and I just think that's pretty amazing. But you can see the patches left over from the fall. Only thing left to take out are a few cabbages and then dig up some of the carrots, but desperately need to do another rake and burning before we turn it all in. There's a bit of a wreck in here. It's such a wreck. These are raspberry or blackberry canes. They already have their buds on here. I didn't want them to get frozen, so I shoved them in the high tunnel and covered everything with the row cover fleece just to give it a little extra protection. But you can see the row of garlic is coming along really well. And then probably the most exciting thing is that these strawberries have blossoms on it. I'm going to go get a closer look. So although it has blossoms on it, see the brown, it's not going to be viable. The brown, I'm pretty sure, indicates that it got frost, a little too cold in here. So I'm going to pull those off. Let's see. Yeah, got a little too frosty, even with the cover. The center is supposed to be a beautiful, bright yellow color, so it can be pollinated. Yeah. Let's see if all of them got, yeah, all of them got a little too cold. But that's okay. You can see it's already starting to put out new foliage, and that just is going to encourage better root system and a healthier plant overall. So that's okay. But I was so tickled that there were blossoms just before the cold. If this were heated, we would definitely have strawberries, but it is not, and that's okay. The onions could do with a trim. I might do that today if I'm feeling like I can do that. I mean, look at this mess. This is all stuff that needs to be planted out. The Kimberly Queens, they did not make it, but it was a worth experiment to see if I could keep them out here instead of keeping them in the garage. These were, see, it still had some green in the center. I have a cat in here. Before this last freeze that we had, but I think it did them in. I really do. We'll see. So here, once we get everything planted out, which will be really soon, they are going to be replaced with some more rows so I can grow some more veg in here. Ideally, this whole section right here will be for tomatoes and cucumbers. I'm hoping to trellis them this summer. But for now, while it's still cold, we're gonna try the Eat Your Greens kit. Here's what the high tunnel is sitting at right now. Here's another product I can share with you from Epic Gardening. These are their seed starting cells. I believe there's 6. Yeah, there's 6 cells to each tray. This is a 1, 2, 3. This is a 6-pack. And what I love about them, they're made in the U.S., made from recycled plastic, is the slits in the corners. That's really going to help with root development, and I love how deep they are. These are going to be great. I'll show you when we use these, but I'll put a link to them below. These are going to be great. They're replacing all of my flimsy stuff that I've used over and over again. These are really durable and strong. This is the 2021 garden. The different things that I have grown in the past. Bare roots that I've bought in the past. Just stick them in a notebook so you kind of know what you've done, where the plants came from, that sort of thing. Garden planning. It's not that big of a deal. It shouldn't be, I should say. Here are some of the gardens that I've made. This is one very simply on computer paper. You just drew a line. Those represent the rows or the patch of rows, and I just put what was going in there. Here's another one that I've made. These are printables that come out in the back of my seed starting plan. I really made the lines super big so I could use those as row guides. Yeah, this is 2024's Spring Garden. That was not my favorite garden. I was very ambitious and a lot of things didn't do great. This is 2023. Again, same thing, just a piece of paper. So I have my spring and summer on one side and my fall and winter. And what I like about this is I can keep an eye on crop rotation. For instance, you don't want to plant your potatoes and onions close to your tomatoes and your squash. They're not friendly with each other. Same thing with beans. So it's nice to keep an eye on where you've planted those things, where you're going to plant them. And yeah, it's just a simple little thing. So other things that might be helpful are like a garden journal. So this I showed you in my seed starting video, where I'm just trying to keep up with what I've planted, what dates, how it did, that sort of thing. I even wrote down like a cheat sheet for me about companion planting, just so I know how I want to rotate it around. So you can take a clipboard, take some paper out, go out to your yard, wherever you want these. You can do it to scale, like, you know, a square could be 1 foot by 1 foot square. So if you have a row that is 2 foot wide by 6 feet long, you know, you would go over 2 and then go down 6. Super easy to keep that to scale with craft paper that way. And then another thing that is also really fun is just having loads of colorful pens. More pens, oil pastels, color pencils, you know. Each square is 1 by 1. So if we're gonna do 2 feet across and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So that's one garden bed. And we're gonna keep, let's do 3 feet in between each one for walkway space. This is perfect for just a tiny little yard. So here we have our 2 garden beds right here. Peppers and cucumbers. So we could do squash and squash and a tomato and a cucumber. Usually tomatoes and cucumbers are pretty prolific. Squash can be prolific, but this is just to give you an idea. Then around the edges, and maybe even in the center, we're gonna put companion planting and flowers and different things. So you have your two main spaces here in the center. So you have your two garden beds, squash, maybe you like squash more, tomato and cucumber, and then all these little fluffy pieces on the side. They can be marigolds or herbs like thyme, oregano, let's see, maybe a basil. So you have really a lot of room to cram a bunch of different things in, and this is super simple. You could even do something smaller than this. Let's say you just have a patio and you have a 2 foot by 2 foot square. Okay, we're gonna blow this up so you can see it better. 2 foot by 2 foot square. Okay, and you like tomatoes, so you plant one giant tomato plant that's 2 foot by 2 foot and then in your garden, and then same thing. Get a basil, a thyme, some marigolds, and maybe you put a little squash plant here and let it kind of hang over the sides. You can do a lot with such a tiny space. When it comes to crop rotation, this was something that my brain could just not get around. I even have a crop rotation cheat sheet somewhere. And while it is important, one of the ways that I find that I have been able to get around that is making sure that I include flowers and herbs in my planting scheme. That really helps keep away some of the things like wireworm or Japanese beetles from getting onto your crops. It's a distraction, if you will. One year I had white marigolds planted around the perimeter of all of my garden, and that kept all of the Japanese beetles preoccupied on the outside of my garden instead of coming in and getting some experimental crops that I was working with, such as pigeon peas. They still did find it, but it was a whole other host of issues just with the pigeon peas because it brought the kudzu bug, which I've never had before. And so that was an interesting thing. But going back to crop rotation, why it's so important is because if you keep planting the same plant, such as cucumbers in the exact same spot or potatoes in the exact same spot, you're going to be attracting and telling that pest that comes to that feast on that crop, like, hey, just hang out here because it'll be back next year and you have a place to feed. So by removing that, you know, when the garden's over and putting it in a new bed in a new place, that pest is going to be confused. So if you plant lettuce the next year where you planted potatoes, it's not going to feast on that the same way. One way that you can get around that I have found makes everything so much more loosey-goosey as far as crop rotation goes is making sure you're interplanting things like marigolds and planting aromatics. A lot of pests do not like aromatics, and it also brings in beneficial insects, not just for pollination purposes, but also predatory wasps and ladybirds that eat aphids, and beneficial insects in that way. I find it very helpful. And then my third thing that I use to kind of help me be a little bit more loosey-goosey when it comes to crop rotation is using beneficial nematodes. All of the things I'm talking about are linked below in case you're like, what is she even talking about? It's super easy to apply. I've had really great success with the ones that I've linked down there, and they come highly recommended. I hope that this encourages you to just get out there and just stop worrying about what your garden's going to look like. Just draw on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's really just for you. And the more you do it, the more you watch and observe and grow, the more accustomed you'll be to pests and it will be a non-issue. Trust me. Eventually it'll all take shape. So, yeah, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.